The black slave mentality. Are there black co-workers at your job who won't let you forget how hard they have it in life? Do they enjoy themselves, intimidating you because you're not a black slave descendant and they know it? Do they seem to cram 400 years of black slavery into an 8-hour workday? Your skills, your abilities, your talents, and more importantly, your passion are all being used against you. And it's not just by the company you work for. It's the black slave mentality. The one or more people who come into the job and expect you to work harder than you have to. This is for you to understand what's going on. Who's watching you work, who's manipulating your abilities for their own benefit, and who's really taking your credit for working hard. You are not a black slave descendant, and you shouldn't be treated like one just because you have a job to do. Watch what they say. If they're reading this too, they're probably coming up with ideas to make the job you work at harder than it already is. They probably don't need to read this to come up with hardship ideas when you come to work. It would explain this. Build up confidence in your individuality. Develop an interest in your own family history. If there is no black slave ancestry in your family history, why are you expected to face, confront, and or develop the black slave mentality at your job, your career, and your life right here and now? They never said the black slave mentality isn't the standard of what hard work is today. They just go out and make examples of those who are not black slave descendants. They don't have a problem sharing the suffering and the struggle. Listen to their tone and how they go about this. Some black co-workers are not above making examples out of those who are not black slave descendants. They want to come to work to try to cram 400 years of black slavery into an 8-hour workday by making an example of the rest of us. Explain their motivation to work. Go to work today. Clock in and watch your black co-workers. Do they stand back and watch you do all the heavy work and they don't help? That explains them expecting you to suffer and struggle like a black slave. Is that really company policy? Is that in the handbook? Your skills, your abilities, your talents, and your passion should help you build success, opportunities, recognition, security, and independence, not the black slave mentality. You are not a black slave descendant. Your productivity shouldn't be measured by the black slave mentality. No one should be measured by the black slave mentality. Think about the future. Do you want your children raised to believe that the black slave mentality is the standard of hard work when they reach adulthood? And no matter how educated they are, their work has to measure up to the black slave mentality and not by their own ability? The problem is this. If the black slave mentality is the standard of what hard work is today, you shouldn't be working. Yet here you are. Just because you're not working because you're not a black slave descendant, you shouldn't be homeless and penniless because of it. And you shouldn't face it at your job. Name one black co-worker at your job who says he's not a black slave descendant, and yet expects you to work twice as hard 10 times over than he does. And at the end of the day, you and others are exhausted while the one black co-worker is as fresh as he was coming in earlier that morning. Describe the people at your job. Describe the people at your job who take pride in their skills and abilities in doing their job and producing results on their own abilities. Describe the people who take the initiative in doing the job and not be manipulated into doing the job. Now describe the one person at your job who expects the rest of you to have it twice as hard 10 times over simply because you're not a black slave descendant. Describe that one black person who knows you're not a black slave descendant and expect you to build that mentality. It's that one person instigating other black co-workers into manipulating those who are not black slave descendants into dumping more work onto them. And who would know that better than the Asian American workers who work so well that that one black co-worker makes an example out of them? Asian Americans are not black slave descendants either. This mentality has to stop now.